Hey everyone, this is Russell with Common Motor, and today we'll be showing you how to rebuild your internal spring with dampening rod forks on your vintage Honda. This style of fork is generally found on later Honda CB350s, CL350s, CB450s, and CL450s. If you aren't sure what fork architecture you have, check out the video in the top right corner before we get started to better understand the differences between fork architectures that Honda used. Begin by removing your front brake and speedometer cables, front wheel, and front fender. Loosen the upper and lower triple tree bolts to free up your forks. Once loosened, you should be able to pull the forks from the triple trees. The forks can often be a bit rusty since the fork covers and headlight ears will trap water, so some light lubrication and gentle persuasion from a hammer with a wooden dowel can help get things moving. We recommend removing and cleaning the headlight ears, dust covers, headlight bucket, and even the upper and lower triple tree. This is a perfect opportunity to convert from the factory ball bearings in your triple tree to a set of tapered roller bearings and fresh grease. You can check out our video on how to do that in the upper right hand corner. Once your forks have been removed, the first and most difficult thing is to break the Allen bolt on the bottom of the fork free. This is easiest with a vise, a heat gun, and a friend. Clamp the fork in a vise horizontally with pieces of wood to protect it. Spend 10 to 15 minutes with the heat gun heating the lower portion of the fork around the Allen bolt. Have your friend compress the fork as much as they can while you crack the Allen bolt free on the bottom of the fork. The pressure of compressing the fork helps prevent the dampening rod from just spinning inside the fork as you turn the Allen bolt. Having an Allen key socket on a ratchet or a breaker bar makes this significantly easier. If you're using an Allen key though, slide a small length of pipe over it to get more leverage. Now you can remove the top cap from the fork and drain out the oil. If you're having trouble removing the top cap, try clamping it in your triple tree to break it free. Use a socket on the top cap and a wrench on the lock nut to break the top cap free and remove it from the dampening rod. Remove the fork tube. Some motorcycles use a chrome shroud similar to this one as a dust cover, and it must be removed to access the fork seals. The easiest way we've found to do this is gently using a flathead screwdriver and a hammer to work your way around the shroud until it comes off. There should be a notch where you can easily start. Use a pair of snap ring pliers to remove the snap ring that holds the fork seal in place. Finish unscrewing the Allen bolt from the bottom of the fork to remove the inner dampening rod. Be sure to remove the copper sealing washer. It can often get stuck against the fork. If your Allen bolt is damaged, we have a replacement bolt and a copper sealing washer available. This bolt is a highly specialized sized head and cannot be switched out with a standard Allen bolt. Use a flathead screwdriver or a seal puller to remove your old fork seal. Be careful to pry on the inner edge of the fork seal as not to gouge the fork tube aluminum body. Before starting to clean up your motorcycle fork tubes, it's important to take a moment and thoroughly inspect them. For your new seal to function properly, your forks need to be free of pitting and heavy wear on the chrome outer fork surface that moves in and out of the fork seal. Again, this only applies to the surface of the fork tube that travels in and out of the seal. Pitting and wear will tear up the new fork seal as well as let fork oil escape, so if yours is bad, look for a set of good used condition fork tubes. If your tubes are in great shape where they travel in and out of the seal, but the upper half is rusty, your tubes are completely functional and able to be reused. We generally remove the rust found on the upper half of most Honda fork tubes of this era and protect the upper half of the tube against future rust with a little clear coat. Now that you're fully disassembled, spend some time cleaning all of your components before starting the reassembly process. Once everything's squeaky clean, you're ready to install your new seal into the lower fork tube. We offer two different styles of fork seals at Common Motor: the Easy Install brand seal and the standard seal. The Easy Install brand seals are great because they can simply be pushed into place. Be sure that the open side of the seal faces down and that you place the included aluminum washer on top. These seals are supposed to float in the fork body and will expand when the fork is compressed and under load. Reinstall the snap ring. Our standard seals need to be driven into place like the Honda OEM seals. To drive the seal into the lower fork body, you'll need either a tube, a pipe, or a larger socket close in size to the outer diameter of the fork seal. Be sure that the size of the driver you're using to drive the seal in is slightly smaller than the outer diameter of the seal. If it's too small, you'll risk damaging the inner seal surface. Too large, and you run into the outer fork housing. Slowly tap the standard fork seal into place with your driver. You know that you're done when the snap ring groove is right above the seal on all sides. When the seal is installed successfully, reinstall your snap ring. With your new seal in place, slide your dampening rod back into the lower fork leg. Apply a small amount of Honda Bond 4 or thread sealant to the threads of the Allen bolt and screw the Allen bolt back into the bottom of the fork to hold it in place. You can just snug down the Allen bolt for now. Apply a small amount of oil to the seal before sliding the fork tube back into the lower fork leg. Honda calls for automatic transmission fluid inside the forks, but motorcycle-specific fork oils have come a long way since the 60s and 70s, and it's always preferable to have a dedicated motorcycle fork oil in your forks. We sell a few viscosities of fork oil weight based on your weight and how stiff you want your front suspension to be. Automatic transmission fluid is about 5 weight, but we find that 10 weight fork oil works best for riders under 200 pounds, and 15 weight for riders over 200 pounds. Check your service manual to see how much fork oil should be added for your specific bike. Slide your fork spring back into the fork and screw your lock nut back onto the dampening rod. This can be a little bit tricky because the dampening rod will want to slide down into the fork tube. We offer replacement fork springs made by Icon that will improve the ride of your bike over worn stock springs. Screw your top cap back onto the dampening rod and tighten the top cap and lock nut back together firmly. Then thread the top cap back onto the fork tube, being careful not to over-tighten it. You can reinstall your shroud now if you took one off by gently pressing it or tapping it into place with a piece of wood. Now that the fork is reassembled, tighten down the Allen bolt on the bottom of the fork. Moving back to the bike now, replace your headlight ears, and fork covers if you removed any of them for cleaning or maintenance. Slide your forks into place one at a time, making sure the top cap lines up with the top of your triple tree. Snug down your upper and lower triple tree bolts to hold the forks in place. Reinstall your fender and your front wheel, reattaching the speedometer and brake cables as you do. Finally, torque the upper and lower triple tree bolts to the factory specs in the description below. The upper triple trees have a tendency to crack when over-torqued, even just a little, so be sure to follow the specific torque value. When putting on your axle holders, they are directional and need to face a specific way. There's sometimes an arrow pointing to the side that will face the front of your motorcycle, but if not, the taller side of the holder will face the front. Be sure to torque the nuts starting with the front and then moving to the back. Torque specs for them are in the description below. The last thing to do is go enjoy your freshly rebuilt suspension. This has been Russell with Common Motor. Don't forget to like on Facebook and Instagram, subscribe to our newsletter at common-motor.com, and subscribe to this YouTube channel right down below. I'll see you next time.